Hello everyone, I'm Tara Kangarlu and I want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world on this fine Monday, September 18 at the 7th Annual Concordia Summit. I'm here with an exciting guest, somebody that I'm really thrilled to talk to. She's a courageous social justice activist, Aya Hijazi, founder of the Baladi Foundation. She's done an incredible amount of work in Egypt, where she had a tumultuous journey and now is back in the United States. Well, Aya, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
It's such a pleasure. But I want to talk to you first about your journey in Egypt to the United States. Take us there. What happened? You were doing great work with Baladi Foundation, working with orphan children in particular. Tell us a little bit about that work, street children, and what happened? What went wrong? And take us to the journey.
Well, Baladi did work with street children, but it wasn't only. This wasn't the only focus. We worked on development in general, and we tried to focus on young people and vulnerable people as a humanitarian thing. It's very humane to work with the most needy, and who is more needy than a child living in the street, for example. And also, this is where there's so much hope. With little children, you can invest so much in them, and you can see the effects. They can grow to really wonderful people. No one is beyond change, but it's a lot easier to work with young people. And it was such a wonderful project because we not only offered a shelter for the children, for example, when we worked with them, we were like their home and we were like their school. And these people felt protected and they felt hope. They felt they belonged to society, whereas they were shunned from it before. They were shunned from like family and mainstream society, but there they belonged and they changed their views. And it was such a successful project, whereas people, for example, had a very negative reaction towards street children because.
But why? And I want to come back to your journey to in prison and then being released after 2 years. Correct me. It was, wow. And coming back to the U.S. But Aya, you grew up in the States. What made you go back to Egypt? Why was it that you wanted to go back and work on this issue?
It was hope again, and it wasn't. It was during the 2011 revolution, or as we call it now, an uprising. A lot of us who were abroad, or in Egypt, or in the Middle East, we had lots of hope that actually we can change, and we the people have power, and we can do it. And it's true. I still believe that we can do it if they only let us. But unfortunately.
So I can't even imagine how difficult it was. But when you got detained and you were with your husband, you worked on this together, what happened? And during that time, what was going on in your mind? How did you keep your strength and your journey back to the States? What are you working on now? You talk about hope. How are you keeping that hope alive in your future initiatives? I mean, is Baladi continuing its operation? What's going on?
A lot of questions. So in prison, yes, it was very hard, but I must say that social activists, not only political activists, it's social activists now have to bear in mind that they can end up in prison. Yeah. And it was something that we were prepared for. I never knew that I was going to be charged with such heinous charges, but it was expected that something might happen. The governments, corrupt governments, really don't want any success and don't want anyone to challenge them. And I think this was one of the reasons of why they arrested us, because we were so successful.
Do you think also, adding to that, was it because you were American?
Yes, definitely. The governments play this image game, whereas they're technically allies of like America and the West, but then they portray to their people that they're enemies, and there they were catching the American spy, definitely.
I want to come back to the question of what's next for Baladi. I want to come back to that, but as young women, a lot of our strength comes from our families, and I think a lot of our viewers are younger millennials who aspire to do great things, but also, are building families. Your husband was in prison with you.
Yes.
How did that impact your relationship?
I knew him, or we were married basically for just 1 year before that. So we even got to know each other more and more in prison, but we got to...
Were you in the same cell or separate?
No, it was very difficult that I couldn't see him for 6 months at a time, and sometimes just for 1 minute, yes.
Wow.
Like 3 times for 6 months at a time. It was so difficult. But we were each other's strength, and I think this is why we're both still well after prison, because we supported each other. And our love really grew, and our confidence in each other grew.
It's beautiful. I think maybe that's something positive that
Yes.
it came out of that horrible situation. Now, Aya, you were released in a way during President Trump's administration.
Yes.
And during the election, you were not in the United States, so you missed the entire debates and conversations going on. Certainly, the narrative toward Muslim Americans have not been one that's welcoming. When you came and you learned about that narrative, and you also learned that President Trump was involved in your release, what came to your mind? How did that make you feel?
Well, lots of things, but I did not learn about the narrative from here. I actually followed it in prison.
Oh.
I was able to follow that, and yes, I was really surprised.
So, sorry, but did that terrify you? Did you think that, okay, great, well, it's anti-Muslim sentiment narratives building up in the U.S., what's going to happen to me? Did that terrify you even more in prison when you were hearing that?
I tried not to be terrified, because there were so many things that were terrifying, yes. And I tried not to pin my hope on anyone. But it was scary, and I did follow what happened and the anti-Muslim sentiment that increased. And so it was actually really pleasantly surprising that he did intervene.
Wow.
And this made my hopes rise a little bit that he would do this to other Americans in prison in Egypt, or to other Muslims. He welcomed me, and he was really hospitable with me as a Muslim, and I wish that he would extend it, and I'm a little bit disappointed that it's not happening.
Do you think the Arab Spring, as a lot of people call it, really brought especially the women of Egypt and young entrepreneurs what they aspired to achieve, or no?
The Arab Spring, or what started as the Arab Spring, was the spring of hope. And women, if we watched women in government, in political parties, and NGOs, and rise up businesses, they were really, really doing a lot. And now, of course, women are detained as political prisoners, as journalists, and of course, in my case, and I've heard one woman say, Aya Hijazi now is in each of us, that in a very scary way, now they're scared that if they do anything, even something charitable or development oriented, they could end up in prison, and maybe they will not have someone even to lobby for them or to help them. And
how are you going to support those women who look up to you? What's next for Beladi, and really?
I think my support is in the message that I am continuing, and I'm not scared from doing it. And so we are working again here. We've reestablished Beladi in the United States. We're starting again with the very vulnerable, but this time there are young people
in the U.S.
From the U.S.
From the U.S.
I'm trying to. My first project is for Egypt, and I'm saying that I did not leave Egypt, even though I live in the States. And now there are many child political prisoners in Egyptian prisons, wrongfully there, and I'm trying to support them from here.
That's incredible. Talking about the U.S., do you want to also work on Muslim American issues? Do you also want to be a voice that really rises above the adversities and really unites the community together under this administration that was favorable toward your case and supported your release?
I hope so. Our Beladi, the full name is Beladi, an Island for Humanity,
yes.
And it's supposed to be a place where everyone can belong. When we started in Egypt, it was there was this huge political divide between the Islamists, between the leftists and all, and they all could find a safe place to unite. And I hope it's the same in America, that despite our colors, our differences, our religions, we could all work towards a very humane goal.
Last question. If you had a moment with President Trump again, and I know Arab countries differ from one another, you know, even neighboring countries are not similar in culture, but one special thing that you think he needs to know about Arab women, whether abroad or the United States, Arab American women, what would that be?
Arab American or?
Both, you know, Arab women, but also Arab American women. What is it that you want him to know about the sort of, you know, personality and capabilities of these women?
When we met, he admired my strength and he said great strength. I want him to know that I'm not an exception, and there are so many women, if they're allowed the same chances that I was, they would all excel and stun us with their leadership and with their strength, and they would really change the face of the world if only given the chance.
Excellent. You're talking about changing the face of the world, and that's one of the conversations that Concordia Summit is having today and tomorrow, and one of the themes that we're playing with is win-win. We believe that all stakeholders should keep this in mind when making decisions, because at the end of the day you will have win-win outcomes for all parties. Now, rising above adversities, Aya Hijazi, what is your win-win tip to do that?
May I have a moment?
I hope. I mean, really, yeah. That's what she said.
I think that there are always doors that are in disguise. They could be like prison. Prison could seem like the end, but it's actually a door to a much open and to a very big world. But we need to see through and not end at adversities, see the opportunity in them, and the result could be really fantastic.
That's great. That's a great answer. See the opportunity in the adversity. Last question on the win-win. What's your win-win tip for Muslim American women in the United States to feel comfortable practicing their faith and their belief and live confidently in their communities?
I think they just have to be more in the open and to be able to discuss, for example, their hijab, if they wear hijab, or discuss their religion. A lot of people are just scared from the unknown. It's basically the fear of the unknown, and there are always all these negative things that are said about them that they are unable to defend. So I've heard a lot from the African American community, like about their hair. There was once something made where some African American woman stood and they said, "You can touch my hair," because it was something so intriguing. And so, like, a woman could say, for example, you could ask me about my scarf or why I wear it, and maybe it's actually people could receive something really positive from that. And also there was this African American who talked actually with the KKK, and he said, like, "You hate me, but you don't even know me." And he started actually talking to them and just making friends with them, and they started shedding their robes. And I think it's the same with Muslim women, and they have this unique opportunity if they wear the scarf, for example, that other Muslim men don't have, that distinguishes them.
Excellent. And I want to leave on this thought. What brought you to Concordia? Why is it that you think summits like this are worth attending and really participating in as you are doing? I
think it's part of the global dialogue. I think it's part of being positive and knowing that people are working to improve the world, that we're not just giving up, and so people can see the others around them who are also working on something positive.
Excellent. And on that positive note, thank you so much, Aya Hijazi. I look forward to what you do next. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Tara.
Great.
Good.